sorry, the number you have reached is not in service. Please check the number or try your call again. This is a recording.
Are you listening?
Hello there,
I'm Darius,
and I'm Sam.
and welcome to the Oxford Youth Podcast. This podcast is by young people, for young people, just to talk about the things that we care about.
We're here to give you a voice, whether that's the voice of your creativity, your professionalism, or just something that you're doing that you feel needs to be spoken about.
And if you want to get in touch and actually get on this podcast, you really can.
We don't bite. I mean, we promise.
And we promise. But the real question here is, are you listening?
I mean, are you listening?
Are you listening?
Are you listening?
Let's just get on into the podcast. Hi, everyone. I hope you are doing well. Welcome back to the Are You Listening podcast. We are continuing with this amazing LGBTQ plus series, thanks to Ben and their amazing brain. I'm so excited that we are kind of branching into an area that isn't always spoken about. The intersection between being a person of color and being part of the LGBTQ plus community. It's like just extremely exciting to be able to be in this space, to have this conversation and to delve into more of what that means, the joys that come with it and also the difficulties that come with it as well. So we are happy to be joined by some amazing people. Can you guys just introduce yourselves and your pronouns as well? Xiao, we'll start with you.
Everyone, I'm Xiao and my pronouns are she, her. I'm currently a student, but I'm graduating soon, so big plans ahead.
Hi, I'm Eva, she, her today, and I'm in sixth form.
And I'm Ben, you know me, I've been here before, I go by they, them. It's good to see you all again. So, on today's episode, as Darius said, we're talking about people of colour in the LGBTQ plus community. And I thought, first, let's start off on a positive note. What do you think is good about being in the LGBTQ plus community and also being a person of colour?
Good question. I think no matter who you are, having a sense of community is always really nice. Just knowing that there are people like you that are like-minded and they will understand what you're going through is really nice. Yeah, that's it from me.
I mean, I've made friends solely on an appreciation for jollof rice before, so that's quite nice.
That's a solid reason to make a friend with someone, to be fair.
Yeah, and the sense of community is really important, I think. What is it about the community that you think is good? And is there anything that maybe you're not so happy about?
Deep thoughts.
Yeah, it's a difficult question.
It is difficult. I think we tend to remember the things that we don't like more than the things that we do like, because you really do take those things for granted, right?
Yeah.
So like, because I already came out pretty recently. It's been just under a year. And I do feel like once I've accepted who I am, and like the community's always there, right, like ready to welcome you, like that's the best part about it. Like, you don't have to be like, I have to tell them now, otherwise they're gonna like leave me behind or anything. Like they're always there with open arms, like ready to accept you. And I think that's a really like nice feeling to know that someone's gonna be there for you. The things that I don't like is that sometimes people get stuck on definitions of identity and they fight about it. And it's like, identity is very personal. If you don't agree with each other, that's a personal thing, you know?
Yeah.
I just want everyone to accept themselves and accept that other people have different definitions of their identity. But mostly, it's very nice to be around so many different types of people, and yeah, it's nice to make new friends.
Yeah, labels are strange. I have the white labels that I like, but then some people seem to not like that I use them, and it's like, guys, just calm down. It doesn't affect you.
Yeah.
But like, being like LGBT in school, it's like all of us seem to flock together. So I have a really nice group of friends now, and we all like have at least one common thing like of understanding between us, which is always nice.
I think on the topic of labels, I think something that I've noticed is that people outside of the community kind of ask for definitions. And I say, well, this is what it means to me. And they're like, and they want to know what it means. But yeah, I think a lot of time it's very difficult to define what something means. I know yesterday one of my friends asked me, is it cool if I call someone dude if they're non-binary? And I'm like, for me, yeah, sure. I like dude is cool with me. But it's different for everyone, you know? So you shouldn't I think an important thing to get across to people is that you shouldn't necessarily just assume it applies to everyone. Even if something is the norm, if someone calls themselves something, that might have a completely different meaning to them. But yeah, I think people are pretty good about understanding that once you explain it to them. I think it's not necessarily obvious, but I think once you explain that to someone, they're like, oh.
I think it's cool that there are like spaces for even people who are, like aren't within the community to still be comfortable to ask those questions to like their friends or family members, to kind of be like, I don't completely know because like it's not like my lived experience, but I want to know so I can, you know, respect you in the way that you should be. Like obviously anyone who's truly an ally or truly your friend or like truly loves you doesn't want to offend you, so they want to know so that they can show you that love as well. So yeah, it's really, really cool that that kind of mutual respect is there as well.
I helped set up Gender Sexuality Alliance in school, and I made it very clear whilst we were telling people, hey, we've started this new thing, that everyone was welcome to come along. And we got some allies coming and just like asking like questions, wanting to know things, and it was very nice to be like, thank you for asking, here's what it is. And being able to just explain it so people know things.
Yeah, asking is really good. if you ever want to know something, just ask. People aren't people can tell if you're trying to be offensive when you ask something. If you genuinely just want to know, just ask. You're not offending anyone by not knowing something. If you are comfortable with sharing, because I feel like it might be useful. What do you identify as, both of you? Because I'll just say mine first, because I'm non-binary, and sexuality wise, just imagine pansexual, but pansexual doesn't really apply. I go by pansexual, but it feels weird to call myself that, you know? But yeah, what does everyone here define themselves as, if that's a question that you're comfortable answering?
Well, back when I was first being like, this isn't straight, I like picked pansexual, and I've kind of just stuck with it because I don't care about labels too much. And then gender wise, I don't know at this point in time. Like I've been going by she, her, and it's for a little bit. Just like it just varies from day to day, just like time. So yeah, I haven't like figured that out yet.
Just to clarify for the people, for people who might not know, when is it acceptable to use it's for someone?
I would say if they say it's acceptable, because some people find it like really offensive, which I understand. Fair enough, you don't have to like things, but I like them for me, so you can.
That's fair.
You can use them for me.
Yeah, I know.
And anyone else who explicitly says you can.
Yeah, I know. It's a bit of a yeah, because a lot of people who are non-binary don't like it because it feels a little derogatory, but I know a lot of people do like it as well. So it's definitely that's definitely something that, you know, I'm very happy for people to use, but I think you should definitely check with someone if they say they're non-binary to not just call them it straight away. But
Yeah.
you know, I'm very happy that you go by that.
My default pronouns for calling other people are usually just they, them until they tell me otherwise.
That's smart.
Because like no one gets offended by they, them.
It's interesting because in Mandarin, the word for he, her, they, them, it is all the same sound. So when you're talking to someone, you actually can't tell, which I think is like super useful, but also very confusing.
That's really interesting because I've
Yeah.
only ever heard about languages which are like gendered, like French and stuff, and how that makes people feel bad. But a language without gender sounds
It does have gender in writing, but like when you're speaking it, you can't tell.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Interesting.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. It'll be useful, wouldn't it, if China was more open to welcoming
Yeah.
sexuality. um so I identify as pansexual. Not that much of a funny story. It's kind of it's a bit of a learning curve, but when I first discovered the term, so my last name is Pan
Yeah.
and I'm pansexual. It was a bit of a joke to me, and I was like, yeah, it's a nice word, and I didn't really know what it meant back then because I was like 16. And then as I got older, I was like, wait, this is not a joke anymore. This is actually like my reality. I don't, in terms of gender, like I didn't really think about it. I was just told like growing up, I'm a girl. Like that's what I was told. I'm a girl, I'm a woman. I think as a society, they really like to tell you who you should be. So I never like doubted it. I want to say I'm confident that in my womanhood. But who knows, like I'm still young, I'm still figuring out what I'm trying to do. Yeah, gender identity, it could change, who knows? But
Yeah.
I think because I don't like to settle on labels and definitions either. So pansexual is the one that just fits the best. Yeah, that's me.
Yeah, that's great. I think something I've been thinking about with like the gender is I think it's great for people to be confident in their gender, but I also it's useful to have the mentality that if it does change, that's okay, because that's just being open to change is just a useful thing in all parts of life, I think.
Oh yeah, definitely.
So you shouldn't put yourself into a box just because that's what you feel. But being happy with your gender is great, as I'm pretty happy with my gender.
Good.
I'm glad you're happy. So now we are joined by an extra special guest. Like, life happens, people, life happens. We are joined by the amazing Mimi. Hi, can you introduce yourself and your pronouns as well?
So my name's Nina Cassie, and I go by she, her. I am a lesbian, proud Black woman. Yeah, so that's a bit about me. And thank you very much for having me on this podcast. Unfortunately, family happened, so I'm literally on my way to London as we speak. But I'm sure we'll get a lot said, make a lot of valid points, and I'm super excited. Super excited.
Yeah,
Amazing.
cool.
So we've been talking a lot about all of the good stuff, about being person of color and part of the LGBTQ plus community. Now we're going to move on to the not so good stuff. So Ben, take it away.
I can't speak from personal experience, but from what I've heard, people there's quite a bit of stereotyping out there. Has anyone experienced anything or have anything that they want to say about that?
100%. If I can add my 2 cents. In terms of being a feminine Black lesbian, a lot of people assume that I'm straight because, hey, what does gay look like, right? And because I look quote unquote straight, I have a lot of, surprise reaction when I tell people, oh, I'm gay. And it's like, I don't know, I feel I shouldn't feel offended, but at the same time, I do. Like, do I have to have a big tattoo on my head saying gay? And then when I do, I feel like it opens up a very, I haven't had a good experience. I mean, people feel openly free to talk very sexually to me. They think it's kind of like a fantasy or a kink. So I think that's a downside for me, especially when I'm dealing with Black men. If I tell a Black man or a Black woman that I'm not quite open-minded, they can be very judgmental about it and think it's a phase rather than me being me.
I definitely agree, like with the fantasy thing. I think a lot of people, they already think of women as like very, like when women are gay, they think it's like very sexy, and it's like I'm not your fantasy. Like, I'm a real human being, so treat me like
Yeah.
one. And I think
Yeah.
being a Chinese woman as well, like, I already get the fetishization by like men in general, but on top of that, I tell them like, oh, I'm pansexual, like I'm into everyone essentially. They're like, oh my God, really? And I'm like, bro, just because I'm pansexual doesn't mean I'll be into you. I'm not selective on like gender or whatever. But it's just annoying because like I'm more than just my sexuality, like I'm also this whole person behind it, you know? And I got told I look straight the other day and I was like, I don't know what that means.
Yeah, what does it mean to look straight?
I know. This is why I want a tattoo on my head. Like, come on now, guys. Ugh.
I mean, if it makes you guys feel any better, I regularly get told I look gay, and I'm like, but I'm not.
You're just a nice person, to be honest. And for some reason, like men just aren't allowed to be like nice and not gay.
You're pleasant to be around. You must be a homosexual. That's just how it works. I saw someone talk about how the over-sexualization, and they said that being gay isn't sexy. Like, that's people often see it as something that is, and it's fine if you want to have sexual relationships, that's fine, but also there's, you know, that's not what it's all about. You know, you want to love someone. Being straight isn't just automatically sexy, right? So why should being gay be?
The fact that gay people exist in primary schools, so many people are like, oh, would it be inappropriate? I'm like, how how would it be inappropriate?
Especially you get the people like they see like 2 young babies and they're like, oh, they, you know, it'll be cute if they grow up to get married. And I'm like, that's so weird.
You know, I find really weird when in like primary schools where they do those things where kids get married. That's just
that is weird, isn't it? Or the first kiss of a child. It's like, and that's okay.
Yeah, but teaching kids that gay people exist is
a problem. Yeah, do you know what? I'm a religious person, so it's been very hard for me I was raised in a Catholic household, so I kept my sexuality very to myself. And to some extent, I can understand it might offend people's religions, but I'm not saying, I feel like it should be taught in curriculum because we are just like everybody else. You know, I love a woman because I love a woman. That is just me. And that's okay. And I feel like that needs to be taught in schools. Because if you can teach people about Christianity, which not everybody is okay with, or you can teach people about Islam, we live in that society. We live in a multicultural society, and we're supposed to be liberal people. And so why is that not in the curriculum? That is my question.
You don't get to choose your sexuality either, whereas with religion, you could kind of have a choice most of the time.
Yeah.
But
teach kids that people exist and the world would be a lot nicer place to live in for everybody.
I actually read somewhere, there was a dynasty in ancient China where it's like normal to be bisexual. And that really surprised me. But like that was the norm of that society. So, you know, it's interesting how ancient like periods of a country could be more accepting than the modern day.
Even ancient Egyptians as well.
There's so many things I've read about just like places that were just really cool and then got invaded by the West.
Yeah.
Oh dear. Colonization. We love it. God.
This place has like 3 legal genders. Sorry, no, we don't like that here. Down to 2.
Especially with like cultures and religions and everything. Like I think both Xiao and Mini, we've had conversations privately about like how religions and stuff and how, all things they do. And obviously we believe what we believe in everything. But like I feel like everyone has like entitlement. You can believe what you believe, that's completely fine. But like at the end of the day, with all religions that exist, the central point of it is like love and respect. So if you're going against that, then like it doesn't sit right.
And I feel like there's extremists in every religion or denomination. And I feel like you said, the core value is to love one another. And to say that all gays go to hell, like it's like, no, I believe, this is my personal belief, that I was born this way and I'm loved, you know, I'm loved by him. So you made a very good point there. Sometimes I do feel like, oh, God, I feel a bit left out. Like, is there something wrong with me? Because my religious values are so core. They're at my core, you know? So it is a tricky one. It is definitely a tricky one for me anyway.
There are so many people that try and hide behind religion as like an excuse for their hatred of people. I'm like, that's not. I'm Christian, and that's not how Christianity works.
Mm.
Thank you for
Yeah, me
listening.
too.
Stop lying.
There's literally nowhere in the Bible where it says like outwardly, go and hate people. Nowhere. Like it doesn't say that anywhere. So even like turning like a religious book like that many people, I included, believe and everything, turning that into something that has been a catalyst for things like colonization, for different wars, for like pillaging different places in the world, and then say, no, anything that you believed previously, now this is what you believe. And they'll take little bits and pieces from the Bible and twist it to their morals, and then be like, oh no, this is what the Bible says, even though you're like, it doesn't say.
Yeah. I mean, Christopher.
Sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, I just have so much to say. I was going to say, like, Christopher Columbus is a perfect example of that, using Catholicism to I don't even know the word, but he thought that, you know, Africans or people from the Americas were savages. And he thought that, you know, by whooping the Bible onto them, which is totally against the values, you know, the Ten Commandments, would release them from their savagery. So I feel like, yeah, you made a really good point about colonization there and religion.
And I was gonna say, like, I've read a really interesting article. You know that phrase that people always use, oh, men shall not lie with men. That's actually wrongly translated. It was men shall not lie with boys. But obviously when they were translating it, they were like, well, I don't agree with this. So I'm just gonna change what it means. And you know, it can be interpreted that way, but that was not the like original intention. I just think it's really interesting that this has happened and people just like go along with it, and they haven't even looked at like all the different other translations of the Bible. And it's so annoying that people aren't like thinking harder about all these like evidence they used to hate, rather than just accept other people.
One of my friends likes to say that the Bible should be interpreted in its own time because it was written to be used in the time that it was written.
Yeah.
You know, while it has like good values in it, you shouldn't take everything that was written for 2000
literally
culture. Yeah. Because it's just not applicable to a world where we have smartphones and computers now. It's such a different place.
And I guess it's also, I like, if you are interpreting it correctly, because like people can like interpret, as you said, interpret something that was written all those like years ago, look at it and be like, okay, let's apply something that was used to enslave people back then to now. But then not, as you said, not contextualize it to like, actually they had slaves in that time, and at that time that was fine. Now we don't have slaves, but what we do have are, if you're our boss, you have people who work under you, and there are things within the Bible that talks about how you treat your air quoted slaves, which now can be interpreted as how you treat like people who are under you, as in like management and things like that. So it's, as you said, it's obviously about looking at it within context, and also like, most importantly, above everything, just showing love, like, because like, as I think as we've all been saying, like, if you are using any religious book, any like scientific book or anything like that to spew hate on anyone, you're in the wrong. Like, you're just in the wrong.
How do you have that much energy to spend on hating people? I don't understand how people manage to do that. Calm down. You're wasting energy. No one wants to.
Calm down. That's funny.
Something that Ben mentioned earlier, which I thought was really interesting, actually extremely important, is like, over the last couple of years, we have seen like a bit more, I was going to say loads more, but that's not true, a bit more representation of like queer people within the media. Like, they'll be like here and there, but then you'll see like the fraction of that little bit of like queer people of color in the media, and you see like, you know, that one person in that show, or there'll be like a show like Pose where it's like, okay, like that's one show. But like, how do you guys feel about that? Do you think it's going in the right direction? Do you think it could be better? Like, what do you guys think about that?
Well, people of color have like always been really underrepresented, and same with LGBT people. And so now that we're getting more representations, like LGBT people especially, there's gonna be even less for, you know, POC LGBT, and it's just like, it is moving in the right direction, but it's going too slow for my liking.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree.
No wonder they call me exotic, you know? Like there's so
Oh,
many
God.
like Asians in the world and they still want to call me exotic.
That's it.
It's crazy. It's because I don't see enough.
A
Yeah.
public service announcement: do not call any person of color exotic. Don't do it. It's not
Don't
cute.
do
It's
it.
not romantic. I don't care. I don't care if you think it's cute. I don't care if you think you're flirting with a person. It's not gonna work.
Bro,
Don't do it.
Weird.
People still do that. That's crazy.
Like,
to
I'm
me.
not a breed
Wow,
of
exotic.
mango, you know? Like, what is that?
improvement has been made, and I'm glad about the amount of children's media that's coming out, because, you know, next generation is very important. I really like She-Ra, and they had some like really nice representation in there of just, you know, people existing and just, you know, being present and being visible. Like, they didn't make it any big thing because it's a fantasy show about princesses with magic powers.
Yeah.
That's the core of it. And it was just nice to see.
What did you say it was called? She-Ra?
Oh yeah, DreamWorks made a reboot, She-Ra and the Princesses of Power.
Oh, I don't think I've heard of that before. I definitely want to check that out.
Have you guys seen that I can't remember the name of the show, but there was a show where there was people trying to make avatars of young people, and they made two people of color, and it was like a superhero show. One of which
Oh,
was
this is
called
Marvel
Safe
New
Space.
Warriors. This is Marvel New Warriors, yeah.
Yeah, I can't remember the name of the other one, but one of them was called Safe
Okay.
Space. Do you know more about this?
They update. So I really like Marvel, so I know about this.
Yeah.
They update the new Warriors roster every so often, so it's like up with the times, because it's always like the young people in it. And just all of them for this, the new ones were bad. There was like B negative, a vampire dude. Screen Time was their tech person, and then there was a non-binary character called Snowflake, and their older brother was Safe Space.
Yeah.
It's like, thanks guys.
It's like
Snowflake, Safe Space.
this is definitely the
Snowflake,
representation
you
we
know,
want.
oh dear. Just direct derogatory terms. Like,
Yeah.
whoa.
Yeah. I
They
saw
tried to make it like, oh, we're reclaiming it. I'm like, no, you're not. You're a big corporation. Shut up.
it's not your word to reclaim. I saw someone I watch on YouTube who does like art stuff, and they redrew the characters to be like better representations, and they talked about how they're not really well fleshed out characters. They don't have personality, which is something I personally think is really important in representation, is people not just being put in there to be representation, but put in there to be their own character as well, so that they're a good part of the show, because if they don't have character, people aren't going to care about them. So I feel like we need representation that's also good representation, that's not just calling someone snowflake or safe space.
I think it's because it's like also trendy, like for like directors and stuff. Like they're just kind of like, well, what's trendy now? You know what? Let's just put like a lesbian in, just
One,
like
the
just
flavour.
for
Yeah,
them.
like the totem lesbian.
But then,
oh god.
yeah, but like no storyline, no nothing. Just
Yeah, they really
just
put
there.
the gay as their identity. Like there's no personality behind the
Yeah.
lesbian, and that's it.
Here's our main cast. He's got these wonderful, interesting personalities, and their lesbian friends. Sometimes I watch a show and like it feels like they're trying too hard. I'm like, guys, just have them be people. It's so easy. BBC had a show called Class, and the main cast was very diverse, and they all felt like actual people, and it was wonderful. And then it ended on a cliffhanger and didn't get renewed for a second season.
Oh,
They deliberately didn't advertise it very well, and it was on at like the worst possible time, and then went straight onto iPlayer, and no one watched it.
And I think that's also another thing, because when you're talking representation, you're not just talking about people being on screen. we're also talking about money being put behind like the people who are going to be on screen. So it's like if you are making these TV shows, films, etc., like put the advertising power behind it. There are so many shows that they've like put out on Netflix and they've just sat there and they've said nothing about it, but they exist and they're there. But if they would have put that budget behind it to be like, you know what, let's advertise this properly, like they do with a Marvel film, like just one ad would literally suffice, and it would probably get more people to watch it, and then they would realize, oh wait, there is a market for this because you know that there are a lot of LGBTQ plus people in the world, like there are lots of people of color in the world, so maybe you should start catering for these people and doing it in a way that is authentic and not just performative.
It just kind of reminds me of what Jenny Livingston kind of did with Paris is Burning. Like, I think Paris is Burning was definitely good, eye-opening, but it's like I feel like she almost exploited them. She was kind of showing the negative aspect and wasn't really giving to the community, kind of just taking, you know. That's if Paris is Burning is the inspiration for Pose, which is now on Netflix. Best show ever. I love it. But so you should really look it up. Like I think she did a good job, but at the same time, really took advantage of those people.
Big corporations don't want to put money behind things that are like LGBTQ plus, because I'm not entirely sure why, to be honest. But it seems, because a lot of times I've heard about shows and people who work on the shows say they intended a character to be a certain sexuality, but then they couldn't because of the people who were running it, and it feels like for some reason big people don't want this to be a thing, and it just doesn't make sense.
But then they would also do like queer baiting as well, like
Oh gosh.
just label it, and then they're like, oh well, you know, this person could be gay, but no one knows for sure.
Like that Disney movie where at the very end they have like someone dancing with a guy. It's like, wow. Yeah, Beauty and the Beast dancing with a man. That's not. This isn't representation. He does talk about Gaston's muscles a lot. I'll give you that.
I really fancied Gaston. Just drawn to toxic men. I did think it was weird. Like, it's such a weird storyline. She gets imprisoned and falls in love with a beast.
Yeah.
Is she okay? And this is why Shrek is elite.
Yeah, there is good representation out there. It's Shrek. That's what we determined.
That's what we've decided.
But yeah, I think representation does have a long way to go. I think that we are seeing positive change, but just we need more positive change is what
at a rapid speed. Yeah, it's too slow for me, guys. 2021, come on now.
Yeah,
like I feel like we spend too much time on things that are just not as important. Like we're underrepresented, point blank period. That's how I feel.
Before, if you showed anyone being like remotely gay in any way, they had to be the villain and then be punished for it. Like that was in the cinema code, that was the law. And so there's still a bunch of things where it's like stereotypes for villains, which have also been stereotypes for gay people, which is just like very concerning. However, it does also mean that a lot of the time they make a female villain. I'm like, oh, she's hot, she's cool. Even though she's doing atrocious stuff, she's got like all the lesbian stereotypes down. So like, what are you trying to convey to the children here? I'm very confused.
Although I really enjoyed Buffy the Vampire Slayer. I can't remember her name. Oh, Willow. Willow was a really great character. I don't know if you guys remember it, but I watched Buffy recently and it was actually one of the nicer representations. And she was very, I liked it.
Yeah.
I think it's very interesting I think one day, hopefully like 10 years time, I think we're all going to look back and be like, oh, hopefully, fingers crossed, we'll have come a bit further and we won't be like in the same place having these same conversations.
Yeah.
Like, where is it? Like you have like one TV show, one film, probably like a couple of things on Netflix. You've got a couple of artists out. Currently, we have Little Nas X. You've got like Hayley Kiyoko, like all of these other people. But it's like we've got like a handful, but it's like there are more. And
Yeah.
like
Mm.
it's like
I'm a bit iffy about Little Nas. I'm a bit iffy. Like because I'm a Catholic, so it's I don't know. I like what he's doing, but at the same time, the whole devil thing for me is a very big issue. Like I know you want to represent and you're proud of who you are, but I feel like there are ways of representing that without offending people, and I personally felt offended by seeing like the devil and that sort of thing, because for me it kind of associates with being gay with the devil, and that's not that at all. That's how I took it, and a lot of my gay Catholic friends as well felt the same way. But I do love what he's doing, but I don't agree with it with everything. That's why I stand with that.
I haven't seen the video. The only thing I know about it is through memes.
It is very explicit, I have to say.
It's like I feel like he genuinely took literally what lots of Christians had to said to him, like gay people go to hell.
Yeah,
So
it's
he
like an
did.
act of rebellion. I think less of an act to offend people on purpose, but more that he just really sick of it.
I think that's also quite interesting to see like different people's viewpoints on that video specifically, because like I watched it as a Christian and watched it and was like, interesting. Oh, okay. And as soon as I saw that, I was like, wow,
okay.
It's like where do I look? But I think it's like in regards to it being art and a form of expression, cool, fine. Is it for me? No. But like, do I respect like what he was doing in that? Yes, of course I do.
Yeah, that's how I kind of feel. Yeah, I'm like that too. I feel that way.
I think my favorite part about him is that like when at all the not social media, it's just the media being like, oh, like he's gay, and he was like, I thought you guys knew. And that was my favorite part. Like, just it's so normal for him to be like, oh well, this is just me. I just can't wait for the day where like we're no longer pleasantly surprised that someone is like LGBT plus, like in a show or like in the industry.
Yeah.
The day when people don't have to come out anymore, it's just not assumed that someone is something. That'll be a good day.
Yeah. The day I strive for. Just something that I wanted to mention, but like it never came up. Like within my family, I'm a quarter Nigerian, like 1/4, and so my mum's side of the family, we just don't really talk about my sexuality at all to them. Like my grandparents know, but either they forget or they ignore it. I'm honestly not really sure. And then the rest of them, we just don't mention my girlfriend. We just don't. It's like, it's not anything that my parents have talked to me about. It's just kind of unspoken, don't mention it. And it's just kind of awkward, because I do love my extended family, but I don't know how any of them would take it, because I've never like checked, you know? And they are all very religious. Like, I went to my
I'm not out to any of my family other than my mum, so
yeah, pretty much the same.
I'm kind of hoping they'll just gather at some point that like if I just turn up with a woman, like I hope they'll just get it.
Yeah, it's just like, oh, okay.
Come to my wedding and it's just not a dude there.
Next time we're actually able to have a family gathering, I'm just gonna be like, oh yeah, I was made LGBT ambassador at my school, guys. It's not coming out. It's being like, hey, I'm on the student leadership team. That's impressive.
I just want to say it's been a pleasure meeting every single one of you and kind of hearing your stories and your opinions. Yeah, and just to let everyone know that there will come a day where we won't have to have these conversations. Yeah, and because I think we're doing such a great job by having these conversations amongst each other and kind of bringing more light on these subject matters and these issues. You know, there will come a time we will not have to be talking about this. Yeah, that's what I wanted to say.
Yeah.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, it was a pleasure to meet you all. Thank you very much for coming. And we'll see everyone next episode. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.